That hug was for everybody. I can't hug everybody at the same time. I want you to take a moment, and first, that's not your trauma, right? What you just heard about my story, that's not yours. But you all have a story. Everyone in this room has gone through pain. And we come to these luncheons for networking for our business. But what's really going on in the back of our head? I've talked to a few of you before even getting up here. Somebody's going through a divorce. Somebody's aging mother is having problems, right? Like there's things going on in our minds. And how do we actually show up the best version of ourselves? I love how she started with that this is, we're halfway through the year, and have we taken care of ourselves? I spent the year before my 50th birthday figuring out, how do you take care of yourself? I was raising 7 children, going through lots of grief and trauma. How many women in this room honestly know how to take care of themselves? Right? How many of you sit sometimes alone, or maybe even right here, right now, and your thoughts and your emotions are draining your energy? Right? Women, no offense to men, but we energetically have more emotional weight that we carry. How do we do it? How do we keep going? What is mental strength? I actually want some answers. What is mental strength? How about the holistic practitioner over here that's helping us rewire our brain? What is mental strength?
No pressure.
No pressure.
Tenacity.
Tenacity, grit. We learn these things, right?
I would add grace.
Ooh, grace and compassion, right? Go back to that moment where you're in overwhelm, you're by yourself, and your mind is just going. What voice do you hear? Is it your voice? Is it your voice?
Yes.
How are you talking to yourself? Would you speak to yourself? Would you speak to your daughter the way you're speaking to yourself in those moments?
No.
Yeah.
We say just get over it.
Right. Push. This is the masculine way. Just do David Goggins and go work out and push through, and you are going to be mentally strong. And everybody has a capacity limit. You will get to a place where you can't do anymore. Who's afraid of losing it? I'm afraid of losing it. Like we're doing it, we have the grit, we have the tenacity, we know that we're resilient. But when our daughters ask us, how do you do it? I don't know. I just push through. We don't have words or ways to communicate that. So I want you to open you all have a magazine there at your table. I want you to open to page 9. And on page 9 is a visual that mental strength is a skill. Have we ever been taught mental strength? I don't remember ever being taught mental strength. And I'm very happy about the anti-stigma, and we're now talking about mental health. But the truth is we're actually talking about mental illness. We're not talking about mental health. And so now our kids know how to say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and unfortunately even words like, I want to hurt myself, right? We're giving them language that is associated with mental illness rather than mental strength. And I'm a practicing provider. I diagnose and treat mental illness, and I prescribe medication. There is absolutely a place for that, right? But what are we doing to get stronger? What are we doing to change the narrative? We all know physical things that we should do, right? If I go to the gym 3 times a week and lift weights, I'm going to be able to get this result. We don't have that in our mental health. We're all just going in blind. We're surviving. We're here. You showed up. You're running a business. You are surviving. You're doing it. But how are you doing it, and at what cost? What is it doing to your body, to the way you speak to yourself, to your mental health journey? We're all on a mental health journey, even men, even though they're harder to convince that they're on one, right? We're all on this journey. But we're surviving. Many of us are just surviving. We're going through the motions. We're having grit. We're having resilience. We're just doing it. Maybe we're talking to a therapist, and that's good, right? Maybe we're doing yoga and self-practice, and there's a few people that raise their hand that they do know how to take care of themselves. We can't give from an empty cup. And we just keep pushing through. We need to know how to actually fill our cup and how to do it when life is hard, because it's not going to get easier. Bad news, right? I'm not here to say, oh, if you do this, and this is the problem with the self-development world. So I told you the problem with the mental health world, right? It's all about mental illness. And then the self-development world just says, think positive. If you just think positive, magical things will happen. All of the money will flow. You'll get that spouse that you want. You'll change your spouse. Who's been able to change their spouse? Yeah. Right? So what do we do when life is hard? So when you look at that page, we're looking at mental strength as a skill, something that we can learn, not just when things are hard, but as a foundational tool for every choice that we make going forward, right? We all think we know how to think. So there's going to be 3 words I'm going to repeat over and over again, and you're going to be able to leave here today and say, think, organize, choose. I'm going to go into every problem with this in mind. Even if I don't know the whole Mentally Strong method, I can think, organize, choose. So when we think, how many of us call ourselves overthinkers? Not healthy, by the way. We actually begin to ruminate. And this is what this holistic doctor is talking about, like rewiring that. Because when you speak negatively to yourself over and over again, you're actually creating a negative neural pathway, right? And so having that compassion for ourselves. So when you think about thinking about your problems, I want you to sit down and go, am I creating clarity when I think? If as you're thinking about your problems, your energy's rising up, you're starting to ruminate, you're thinking about negative things, your energy is going up rather than down, you're not thinking strong. You're actually probably contributing to some sort of distorted thinking process, right? Your thinking should equal clarity, right? And I've been practicing this on myself for 20 years. I still have my moments of, right? But as you have that knowledge, then you're like, okay, I'm doing it. How do I think into clarity? We all know that we need to choose, of these, positive choices. I should be eating right. I should be exercising. I should be thinking positive. We know what we should be choosing. There's a missing piece in the middle, and that is organizing the stuff. All of the stuff that you are carrying. And I hate to break it to you, it starts in childhood. Our stuff that we still deal with today likely started before age 7. Even if you came from a beautiful, functioning family with, everyone that loves you, there are some things that were established that you still carry with you. So can you organize those things and actually deal with them and process them. We use the word process a lot in mental health. You should process your trauma, you should process your grief, but we don't actually teach people how to do it. And it's not the same for everything that you've been through. So the skill of mental strength is, can I think through my problems? Can I organize them? And can I make choices in line with what I really want? And you kind of have to know what you want, and you have to know what fills your cup in order to make those choices. Otherwise, your choices are just survival of where you are, right? So that's the mental strength as a skill. How did I get there? I've been a psychiatric nurse practitioner for 25 years, so I already had the academic skill of taking care of your mental health. I adopted 5 children, 2 biological. A year after the adoption, one of my children died in a drowning accident. Within 6 months, my son Reggie started having catastrophic epilepsy. And in the midst of that, his 2 sisters began running away and doing what every mother's worst nightmare is of their teenage daughters. And so here I was with all the academic skill. I knew what I'm supposed to do. I have all the coping skills, right? And I knew that I had to get through this. But I was in overwhelm. I was in that, oh my gosh, what if, all of the negative scenarios, just the weight of that energy was just pulling on me. And I remember very distinctly calling my mom. Who calls their mom when they're really upset? Yeah. And you tell your mom stuff that you would never say on stage, right? And my mom was scared. And she didn't know what to say. I'm the professional. She's just the mom. And she said, you should journal. And I thought in my head, I didn't say this out loud to her, that's stupid. Of course I know about journaling, right? Like that's like one of the basic, mental health skills. But it really brought me down and grounded me that I need to figure this out, but there's so much going on that this is where I developed what we now call the thought map. And you could get 20 years of journaling in 20 minutes on one piece of paper where you can just have this amazing insight. And it goes back to childhood and your relationship, your spiritual relationships, and you're able to really see patterns of things that you need to work through. So that's the thinking with clarity. And then the organizing, I realized that there were these things, and I was trying to use like a lot of the self-development, positive psychology, and I realized that's all that is positive psychology, which is great for our negative narrative. Like you absolutely should be practicing positive psychology, but it doesn't help your grief. I'm grieving 1 son gone, 2 kids running away, a son seizing, and in the midst of this, I find out that my daughter and my husband have the same thing that my son who was sick was having. All of this is, you can't positive psychology your way out of real things. And so I realized that there's this grief and there's this trauma. And that's where the organizational piece came in. You need to do different things for the grief, for the trauma, and separate those things. And then you can make choices in line with what you want as you figure out who you want to be, right? So that's mental strength as a skill. And my son, Reggie, who was very, very sick for 10 years, died in 2016. And I knew at that point I had to begin sharing the Mentally Strong method. So there was almost some power in that, right? But what I didn't realize is that my daughter, who was not sick, she had the same disorder, but she was not sick, died in her sleep. And the Mentally Strong method became my safety net. And when I say safety net, I'm being very real and vulnerable here. There is a point that many people get to, that you're like, I think the other side of this earth would be a better place to be, right? And I'm a mental health professional. I know what that means, and I know I should get professional help and all of these things, right? But it's a real feeling. But the Mentally Strong method became my safety net. Like, I know this works, and I'm gonna continue to do this process, and I am going to come out stronger on the other side. We always hear what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That is not true unless you have a system to get through it, right? There's many, many people in jails and in psych hospitals and in homelessness and in horrible situations that what they went through didn't make them stronger. It just kept piling up, because whatever you've been through is cumulative, right? Unless you know how to process, release, and put those things into what I call the right categories. So if you take your magazine and go to the very back page, there is an image there. Who knows what a flywheel is? Jim Collins brought it to the business world, right? A flywheel. If you can have a flywheel for your business, you will be successful. The Mentally Strong method is a flywheel for your mental health. If you can create this momentum and you can do these things over and over again, you actually will feel strong, confident, know that you're showing up as the best version of yourself. It's a journey, right? Your mental health journey started a long time ago, but can shift today with those 3 words. What are the 3 words? Very good. Think, organize, choose, right? And every time you read a new book or you look at a new technique, and where am I trying to process? What am I trying to do here? And if you look at this flywheel, right, we have the think, organize, choose as the flywheel. Those pieces on the inside, right? You have triggers, grief, trauma, negative self-talk, even addiction, anxiety, worry. All of these things need to be processed differently. For example, I go through grief of losing a child. That's obviously grief. I'm also the academic type. I'm like, I'm going to read every grief theory because this stupid 5 stages of grief seems to be ridiculous and doesn't seem to fit. And I began reading all of these grief theories. And I learned a lot, and there were some that were very, very helpful for me at the time. But they're not the whole picture. And grief is your story. You are allowed and encouraged to feel the pain of that grief for your entire life. 20 years from now, on my kids' birthdays, I will be on a beach, crying, alone, like I'm not doing this, right? Like, that pain will still be there. The intensity and frequency in which I have to feel the pain should decrease. And it shouldn't embed in every area of my life, because I've separated the trauma. So grief, traumatic grief, which losing a child, a spouse, anybody in a violent situation, I would consider traumatic grief. Who has heard of the book, The Body Keeps the Score? Right? This is trauma stored in your body. And so if I were to have gone to, or many people who have gone to a counselor, and the counselor is trying to get them to release this pain of losing their child, I would say, anyone in here with kids knows that I'm not letting go of that. that is mine, right? But what I tell them is, we have to separate the grief from the trauma, from the negative self-talk, right? The, oh, if I would have, could have, if I would have done this, all of that, right? You actually have control of that. But what happens is it gets enmeshed with your grief. Now it's part of your story. And now you're creating these negative neural pathways, right? spiritual conflict. You can't lose someone that close to you and not wrestle with what you believe happens after death. Like, those are spiritual conflicts. But that needs to be dealt with differently than your grief. And that's not trauma, that's different. And so when you look at that visual of this flywheel, all of these categories have a different intent to move forward. Like, you're organizing it into something that's actually going to work. You know, for example, let's say you wanted to start practicing yoga. And you said, oh, I heard yoga is great for grief. And you go into yoga and you're like, okay, I'm going to get rid of some grief here. And you feel good when you're doing it. But then a day later or so, you're like, well, that didn't really actually relieve anything, right? But if you would have separated the grief from the trauma, the negative talk, take responsibility for your negative talk, right? And say, I'm going to sit in this pain and feel it, or I'm going to use this practice to release some of this trauma, but allowing yourself to hold the pain, the shift is different. It creates a cumulative journey that is leading to that mental strength. And so that is the mentally strong method. You leave here today with the think, organize, choose. I want you to sit in your own story right now. Whatever is going on in your life, we all have something, right? How are you thinking through it? When you think through that problem, do you find clarity? Or is it just overwhelming? Anybody? Where's my timer person? I lost where she was sitting. Oh, she's right here in front of me.
Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
Okay.
You have plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't it kind of matter, I mean, like on the day? I mean, because every day you have different emotions and different thoughts and different feelings and different experiences.
Yeah.
Each day is going to be a different
Yeah.
outcome, so to speak.
So, yes, absolutely. But in your darkest moment, for me, it's when I'm alone, right? But for some people, it's when they're around other people. That triggers everything, right? Are we able to think with clarity, or are we feeding into that spot? If you think about your emotions like a fire in your backyard, are you putting gas on the fire? Or are you putting sand or water or, something that's decreasing its intensity? That's how we need to think about our thoughts. Are we making it worse? And there's actually some new research coming out that traditional talk therapy can actually make things worse, because you are sitting in a room talking about your problems, right? Not that you shouldn't do that, right? But thinking should equal clarity, not putting fuel on the fire. It shouldn't be bringing everything up. I've had several women, especially successful business women, who have come to me and they're like, I want to do your programs, but I can't open that box right now. Like, I know there's stuff there, I can't open it, right? My challenge is it's cumulative. You will hit your capacity limit, and where will you be at that time, right? Will you be able to show up for your family? Right now we're all just, but I have to show up for my family. I have to. But if we don't learn how to regulate the inside, when things get bad, we may fall apart. Hopefully you won't, right? But there's also, in that same book, Body Keeps the Score, we talk about it actually will come out in physical manifestations as well. Western medicine is now catching up with, neuroinflammation. Inflammation in the body creates neuroinflammation, creates mental health concerns, creates physical problems, right? Inflammation, like stress and overwhelm is the fuel to that inflammation fire, right? So it's going to come out in other ways if we can't learn to really feel confident that we're thinking through our problems, organizing them, and making choices. Can we separate these things? And I knew that I had to figure it out and that I had to share it, because when I was in that place and I went to professionals and they're like, I don't know how you're still standing. And I'm like, I don't know how you can help me if you don't know how I'm still standing, right? Like, so we need tools. We need to be teaching what mental strength is and not just reacting to mental illness. What questions do we have about the Mentally Strong method?
So isn't it the choice to either react or respond? And responding is thinking versus just, oh my God, I gotta do this. You know, like you don't, and I think sometimes we as women just react in that mode. Like,
Yep. And men want to fix it, right? And that is absolutely true of triggers. So if you look at that flywheel, right? Triggers are things that are coming at us, and are we able to react appropriately or respond? You know, many times, professional women like ourselves, we respond really well on the outside, right? But what's going on in the inside? Are we really responding compassionately to ourselves, for ourselves? Are we really thinking, oh, I got this. This makes sense, right? I recently went through a very stressful situation and got into an argument with someone that I love, and I did not react the best way, right? But I can take that back to, okay, let me think this through. What was my trigger there? Why did I not react the way that I wish I would have, right? And, you know, I can put like, what part of that was my grief? What part of that was my trauma? What is the negative dialogue here? What do I want? I want a relationship with this person that I had a conflict with, right? I know that. So what choices do I need to make to self-regulate myself and be authentic in kind of healing that conflict, right? So yes, and I'm out of time, but these magazines are for you. If you have a waiting room in your business, please take some extra ones as you leave, because we are putting these all through the city. The last page has a QR code where you can sign up for some free online training or here.
I was just wondering, like, what's the real difference between like think and organize? I find myself skipping the think part.
You're a doer?
Organize it all, and then I'm like, ooh, yeah, we're going.
Yeah.
So everything's okay.
So if you skip the think part, are you getting deep enough? Right. You answered right. Like, and so that.
I don't want to.
Yeah. Right. And I hear that from professional women all the time. I don't want to go there. I know there's stuff there. I don't want to go there. Right. But when we talk about capacity, it's not just a capacity to do more. It's to have more joy, have more happiness, be able to really know how to fill our cup and feel confident in that. So, if I was working with you, like that would be my challenge specifically to you. But there's women on the other end of that just think really deeply and everything is emotional and it's very draining. So that's working for you in a practical way. But is there unresolved stuff on the inside? There is for all of us, unfortunately. I hate to break it to you. And like I said, I've been doing it on myself for 20 years, and I still have things that come up from my childhood, not even the recent deaths, which obviously would come up, right? But, things from my childhood that, we call those core connections, things that continue to come up. Some of mine are, I didn't think I was smart when I was young, right? And so that anytime I'm in a business situation, and I know now I have ADD and I can't read a 15-page business contract. Like, I just can't. instead of like feeding into the, oh, you know, I'm not smart, I can't do this, it's like, no, I just have to, well, now I have AI, but, you know, I can hire somebody to do that because I know that it's not that I'm not smart. It's that I have this one limitation, which everyone has something. And then it also goes into negative self-talk, right? Am I speaking to myself compassionately? Yeah.
I actually was, with the organize, thinking about, do you compartmentalize, like say, okay, this is kind of bucket things and then pick a bucket to deal with?
Yeah.
Kind of what that means?
Yeah, and what's interesting is this came to me when I think about the difference between a woman's brain and a man's brain. And a man's brain is typically naturally compartmentalized. But what I find when working with men, she's like, yeah, that's me, yeah. What I find with working with men, and you see this a lot in military combat trauma, is they have all their stuff in a nice little box that they never deal with until they hit the capacity limit, and then they lose it. And they lose it in a big way, right? And so there's the healthy is between, right? We can compartmentalize it, but we can also choose to deal with the pieces at a time. Yeah.
That helps, and I think we had a question right over here.
I just want to say thank you. I can only imagine how many lives you've literally saved.
Thank you.
Because of allowing this truth to be processed. Thank you so much. Are you familiar with any kind of, I know this is very new in the medical community, but any kind of frequency working that helps the brain get through trauma and some of the...
Yes, there's actually frequency machines that are FDA approved to treat trauma. In my office, we do neurofeedback. You have, like, Western medicine has to have a pretty rigid, placebo control improvement. I've been in the alternative functional medicine space personally for a long time, and we are likely all energy, right? And if you think about our thoughts and our emotions as energy, when we're holding on to these, right? We're holding on to this trauma that is a negative energy, you are making a shift. And this is the other reason that, like, when we talk about our spiritual health, we're also in a culture where we're, like, not allowed to talk about that because we're scared that you're going to try to make us believe what you believe, right? And there's this, but we are, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual beings. And spiritual, even if you don't believe in a higher spirituality, the fact is we are energy, and that is, part of that spirit. So it is part of that processing. So it's yes, and we should be doing it preventively rather than like, oh my gosh, now I have PTSD and I'm going to, pay thousands of dollars to go to this, frequency type thing, right? So both are true. Yes, if we're experiencing real symptoms, we should be getting real help, but we should also be thinking about, how do I create this mental health flywheel? We know what the flywheel is for our physical health. Whether you do it or not is another story, right? Like, that I should be going to the gym a couple times a day. I should be eating about this many calories. Like, we know what that is. No one even knows what mental health, mental strength, like, what are we supposed to be doing? And so this is a foundation for that. Can you think, organize, and choose wherever you are in your life? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.